What's up everybody, my name's Big Cam and welcome back to another Monday Comically Boston podcast, where every Monday we discuss the weekly nerdy news and everything that happened over the last week in nerddom. And there's some juicy topics to talk about today and some news that was dropping just as I started recording today, so we're gonna jump right on into it. And towards the end of today's show, some Marvel and DC news, and then getting into like the Supergirl of it all from last week. And there's a lot to talk about, so just jump on in with me. And if you want a rundown of the show, that is in the description, so you can kind of go through and be like, alright, maybe it's like here in the video if you want to skip ahead. I don't know how y'all be watching this, but I really appreciate that you clicked on it. So let's jump right on into the weekly nerdy news and not waste any more time for y'all. So just a couple weeks ago, I went and saw ZOOTOPIA 2 with my buddy Langone and his daughter and his wife, and it is now past $1 billion worldwide and is the fastest PG rated film to ever cross the milestone. Which is that true? Isn't Super Mario Bros. A PG movie? That passed $1 billion pretty damn quick, but maybe Zootopia 2 just did it that much quicker. But yeah, those kids, man, you bring those kids to the movies, that billion racks up real quick. Bastards. Was still a pretty damn good movie though, so go check out Zootopia 2 when it comes out of theaters and is probably on Disney+. But a season 2 of Netflix's Avatar: The Last Airbender, the live-action show, is returning for season 2 in 2026. The epic saga continues, and you can see our Core 4 and Appa and Momo there on the cover of this poster here. And it looks like we're going to get Toph in Book 2 here for Book 2 Earth, if you guys know from the show. And Sokka and Katara and Aang, and they're all, you know, Aang especially looks much older than season 1, but obviously that's how that works. If you're a young child boy actor in season 1 and some years go by, boys grow very fast. You know, so Aang is looking a little different, but hey, it is what it is. He's aged up a little bit. It's on to Book 2, and hopefully they'll be able to have a good second season, and that will move on into the third season, and they'll be at least able to do what the animated show was able to do with 3 seasons, and hopefully they end up doing it well. But I don't remember a lot of the season 1 of that, just because I've watched so much stuff in between, but I remember liking it and thinking it was at least better than M. Night Shyamalan's Avatar: The Last Airbender, so it did that. But comment below, are you going to be somebody that's watching Avatar: The Last Airbender in 2026 when that returns? But a movie I will definitely be seeing, and this weird cryptic Times Square billboard for Steven Spielberg's UFO film that is currently untitled, had this weird billboard where it looks like it's a bird, and in that bird is somebody's eye, and it looks like the eye is upside down because the eyebrow's on the bottom, and the eye's like, you know, creepily looking into camera, but then it also looks like maybe there's a clock going around there. I have no idea, but then it says, "All will be disclosed, Spielberg, 6/12/26. So what is that, June 12th of 2026? The Steven Spielberg movie will be dropping, so we're what, a little less than 6 months out from that film, and we don't know its title? I mean, unless its title is All Will Be Disclosed. But what if we go all the way up to June and we don't know the title of this movie, and we're just like, it's Spielberg, it's UFOs, it's creepy, and then like by the end of that movie you'll finally hear the title for the first time? I'm sure it will drop at some point, maybe with the trailer or something, but this looks creepy, and as far as what I've heard from it, it's a UFO film, it has a crazy cast, it's Steven Spielberg, so it has to be unbelievable, you know, and just a weird, creepy little cryptic billboard. But comment below, are you down to go see whatever Spielberg's next UFO film is? I mean, this is the same guy that did things like Jaws, Jurassic Park, Indiana Jones, you know what I mean? Like Goonies, like it's Steven fucking Spielberg. I don't care what he does, I'm gonna go see it. But like, some of my favorite work from him is like Close Encounters of the Third Kind. This type of movie, you know, if he's going back to a UFO based film, oh man, yeah, I think this is going to be insane. But another pretty insane movie that was filming back in probably last year sometime in my hometown of Boston, and I remember seeing the photos of them out there filming, and I was always just like, what the hell? Stuff films in Boston all the time, but I'd never see it. And God, oh God, man, do I want to be a part of something filmed in Boston. More so than just being a part of movies. I would love to be a part of something filmed here in my hometown. Like, that would be so awesome. But the drama in this movie posted here for Zendaya and Robert Pattinson's newest film, and I think they're like a couple. In the one clip I've seen, Zendaya's like in the streets, like cussing out somebody in a car, and Pattinson's like pulling her away, like, come on, stop that, you're embarrassing us, you know, like. But it says, you are cordially invited to the drama, written and directed by Christopher Borgli. And it says, save the date, April 3rd, an A24 film coming in April 2026. Robert Pattinson and Zendaya, the drama, filmed here in Boston. I don't know what this is about, but I'm in. I'm going to watch it. And these two have quite a few films coming out next year that are going to be huge 2026 movies. The drama, one of them that they're both starring in, and then I believe they're also both starring in Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey, as well as the next topic, Dune Part 3, and so they're going to be starring in all three of those, as well as for Zendaya, she's going to be in Spider-Man Brand New Day. Like, what a year for movies in 2026, not to mention the Steven Spielberg movie that's coming out in 2026 that we just mentioned as well. Like, what a year. But Dune Part 3 is still scheduled to be coming out in 2026, and apparently they just wrapped filming recently, and Timothée Chalamet has a shaved head for the role, and many were like, was this Marty Supreme or whatever, and he goes, no, I actually shaved my head for Dune Part 3 recently because there's like a 15 to 20 year time jump or something like that, and to help the time jump, he shaved his head, and like it helped the scene or something. But either way, I don't know if he looks older with a shaved head. He definitely looks creepier, and I don't know anything really about Marty Supreme, but that movie's been getting a bunch of buzz right now. So, you know, comment below if you've seen Marty Supreme. What's that about? Is it any good? But also, are you going to be seeing Dune Part 3? I know I am. I can't wait for that. But apparently that's wrapped filming as well. So a bunch of stuff wrapping filming very soon, and, you know, gearing up for this 2026 of absolutely insane movies. And we still have like Avatar Fire and Ash later this week coming out. So, you know, there's still a couple of films coming out in 2025 that are insane, but we're heading into 2026, which is just going to be an unbelievable year for movies. Speaking of which, the Streetfighter cast was all on stage at the 2025 Video Game Awards, because obviously Street Fighter was a video game that they're now adapting into a movie, and they were all there on stage, all being crazy, and the cast just is absolutely nuts, and there's like posters for them that all have like their, you know, characters and their names and stuff. So just to run through the cast: Noah Centineo is Ken Masters, Andrew Koji is Ryu, and I'm gonna butcher some of these names, so I'm very, very sorry, but I'm gonna try my best here. Kaina Liang as Chun-Li, Roman Reigns as Akuma, oh, Roman Reigns, if you know, you know. David Dastmalchian as M. Bison, Cody Rhodes as Gilly, Andrew Schultz as Dan Hibiki, Eric Andre as Don Savage, 50 Cent as Balrog, Jason Momoa as Blanca, Orville Peck as Vega, Oliver Richards as Zangief, Hiroyuki Goto as E. Honda, Raina Vallandigham as Julie, and Alexander Volkanovski as Joe. And Alexander Volkanovski, the UFC vet and fighter, it was funny because he's obviously a fighter in real life, much more so than many of the other people in this cast. You know, some of them are comedians, some of them are WWE guys, so some of them are built, but not necessarily UFC fighters like Volkanovski is. And Volkanovski's favorite part of this whole thing was he was able to have hair. You know, he's a bald guy, so he had like this big white, you know, blonde hair for this movie, and that was his favorite part apparently. But you can see some of the people on these posters here and their character posters, and there was a couple of solo ones I grabbed just because 50 Cent apparently got into ridiculous shape to play Balrog the boxer, and apparently he walked on set for this film and was like, welcome to my movie, y'all, thanks for showing up, you know, like just was like this giant cast of egos, and he walked in just like owning it, just like, what's up, motherfucker, you in my movie now. And they were all like, oh shit. But there was also Gilly, Cody Rhodes with the big giant blonde flat top, that's gonna be funny to see. Akuma, friggin' Roman Reigns, looks like a beastly like monster of a man, that looks sick. And then Blanca, Jason Momoa, who doesn't necessarily look like Jason Momoa, but he does look like this ferocious, beastly character. So maybe it's going to sound like Momoa, but it's mostly CGI, you know, because I think he said he wasn't on set filming with everyone like everyone else was. And a lot of the suits and stuff were practically done, but I think Momoa's character was done with CGI, unfortunately for him in the cast. But for the movie, still got Jason Momoa in there as well, so this should be pretty sick, you know. And compared to like another fighting movie like Mortal Kombat, this looks pretty damn awesome. And I have a little teaser trailer that they released, and like the soundtrack and just going through the characters, so let's take a closer look at that for a moment. Damn, why does this, like, it was just a quick little teaser, but why does it look good? Like, look better than Mortal Kombat. Like, Mortal Kombat 1, I get they tried to do more of like a movie for it. In Mortal Kombat 2, I think they're actually leaning more towards like what Streetfighter's doing, and it's going to be a lot more about the fights and the battles between the people and the gore and the violence. Where this, on the other hand, looks like they leaned into the comedy, the humorous way that the characters look, the accuracy of their looks from the games. You know, like most of them look very, very accurate to the characters that originally were in the original Street Fighter game, all the way down to their costumes and everything. The one shot of Cody Rhodes' Gilly's hair from the side as it's just like bouncing through a room cracked me up, you know? But like that amount of people, let's say there's 20 people in that cast, that amount of people just shuffling through on a teaser trailer, the editor for that little teaser trailer, fucking good fucking job. That was insane. Like, wow, I can't wait to see Street Fighter. And that literally, that little teaser, their little thing that they did at the Game Awards, these posters, just did the perfect job that it was supposed to do. I went from little to no interest at all in the Street Fighter movie to now like damn sure positive I'm going to be watching it. Maybe not in theaters, but I'm totally going to see Street Fighter when that comes out eventually. Like, this looks sick. Comment below your thoughts on Street Fighter. But speaking of the Video Game Awards, there were some other video games that had like dropped different type of teasers and stuff like that, and there's a Star Wars game teaser that I want to take a look at in just a moment. But I did think it was interesting, out of the last 10 years, the past 10 years of Video Game of the Year winners, going back to 2016, Overwatch was the Game of the Year, Zelda Breath of the Wild in 2017. I heard that's a great game. I haven't played Zelda since I was a kid, so that's something that maybe if I get like a Switch 2, I would go back and play. 2018's God of War, very, very much so worthy of Game of the Year. Sekiro in 2019, I've never heard of. 2020's The Last of Us Part 2, holy shit, that's the best game I've ever played, maybe. Especially that type of game, like so realistic, so much detail in that game that it's insane. Every time you play it, you're like, how is this detail in this game not breaking my PlayStation? Like, it's crazy. 2021, It Takes Two, I've never heard of. 2022's Elden Ring, I heard is very hard. I've never played myself though. 2023, 3's Baldur's Gate, Baldur's Gate 3, I believe. My roommate loved that game and tried to get me into it. I bought an Xbox, never ended up getting into it, but maybe I should. Comment below if there's any Baldur's Gate people out there. Astro Bot I recognize, but I never played myself. That was the game of 2024. And this year's 2025 Game Award was a game called Expedition 33, which is just crazy because like some of these games I've heard of, some of these games I've played, like The Last of Us and God of War. But other of these games, like Expedition 33, 2025 Game of the Year, I have never saw a trailer for it, never heard anybody playing it, never saw any gameplay. So how can something be the game of the year and just completely blow over my head and just, I have not seen or heard anything of it, but yet it's the game of the year? Like, I don't know how that's possible. You know, like, even though I haven't played Baldur's Gate or Astro Bot or Elden Ring, those last 3 years of games were big games that I saw people playing, I just never did myself. You know what I mean? But Expedition 33 is a complete new one for me where I'm like, what the heck is that? I never even heard of it. So if there's anybody out there that played Expedition 33, you know, comment below. What's it like? What's it about? Maybe send me a link or something. I don't know. But if you played it yourself, I'd love to know, you know, any of these games. Which one would you recommend to a buddy? Or, you know, which one would you recommend to me to play? Personally, if you haven't played God of War or The Last of Us Part 2, you're totally missing out. And if you haven't played God of War Ragnarok, even better game. But just to take a closer look at this Star Wars Fate of the Old Republic game that released, I believe it's like a little teaser trailer at the Video Game Awards that I thought looked interesting. So why don't we take a little peek at that? So highly detailed for no reason. Planets, different planets, beautiful landscapes, a ship cruising into this planet, puddles. Look at the detail in that freaking puddle, the ship landing, the lighting in this, the detail in this. I mean, so far the detail looked great, but I don't trust that this is how the game's gonna look, you know, like. And maybe those characters there are in-engine, but the game, the close-up doesn't look like it. Maybe that's in-engine. Crash ship. Big orange ball somewhere. Big creature. Lightsabers. Fate of the Old Republic. Casey Hudson, game designer. Fate is in your hands. Wow. So that looks like it is in development for PC and consoles. Cinematic scenes captured in Unreal Engine 5. So some of that stuff seemed in-engine, but any of the stuff that I've seen from the Unreal Engine 5, the actual worlds are expansive, and like the being able to play as that character is one thing, but the actual detail doesn't seem as crisp as this is trying to make it out to be. Like, sure, when the character started moving and like the cape started moving, you could tell that was kind of video game engine-y looking, but any of the stuff that was really up close to camera, or like the puddle detail and the lighting in that puddle, the detail of the rain hitting the window, the lighting on her close-up on her face, the ship in the background, all of that looked like highly detailed that I didn't think Unreal Engine was capable of yet. You know, maybe they were teasing just a couple of little shots because this is their vision for this game, but maybe that's all this is. Maybe this isn't fully a developed game yet. I mean, shit, a few years ago, and at this point it might even be like a decade ago, Star Wars Eclipse dropped a teaser trailer for a video game that looked so unbelievable that I wanted to play it so bad, but I haven't heard a lick of information about that since. So what's the deal, Lucasfilm Games? What are we doing? You know, are we just putting out the Survivor games? And if so, where's the details about Cameron Monaghan's and Cal Kestis's third Survivor game? I would love to play that. I also would love to play more of like Star Wars Outlaws, but I haven't really had a reason to go back to that since that game came out, you know? So, I don't know. They would also be like I would love a bounty hunter game where you can play as like a Mandalorian and you go around and kill bad guys, collect them, put them in carbonite, bring it back to Jabba, get money for it, get Beskar. You can upgrade your armor, customize it, customize your ship. That's the type of stuff I would love to do in a Star Wars game. But I don't know, comment below. Are you going to be excited for Fate of the Old Republic? I know it's kind of playing on like the Knights of the Old Republic. That was a game that was a long time ago that I never really got to play. But, you know, comment below. Star Wars games, are you excited for this? Would you love to see more of like a Battlefront 3? I don't know. But Lucasfilm Games definitely got to put out some more coming up here in the future. And with Mandalorian and Grogu coming out in 2026, some exciting Star Wars stuff to come in the future. And then in 2027, we have the 50 years of Star Wars since it came out, the original Star Wars. So Star Wars Celebration 2027 might be ridiculous, and I think that's in LA. I'm dying to go to that. I'm gonna try and figure that out, but definitely some exciting Star Wars stuff coming up in the future. But yeah, like the visuals in that, like the ship looked pretty damn good. The planets looked pretty damn good. Her standing in front of that like orange portal where like a monster's behind it before like coming to a close-up on her face, and then the lightsaber goes off screen, but you can see it light up her face as rain's hitting her. And like, I don't know, man. I don't know what it's going to be about or if it's ever going to come to fruition, but so far, just from that one trailer, it looks pretty cool. But jumping over into some Marvel news, and I'm not sure how accurate this is. I think it came from Variety or like Hollywood Reporter or something. But the details that have come out about this is that Black Knight, played by Kit Harington in Eternals 2, in that little Eternals post-credit scene that tied in Mahershala Ali's Blade, we've been waiting for that since, what, 2022? So it's been almost 3 full years, heading into 4 years now at this point. Like, goddamn. But apparently Marvel still wants Black Knight and Kit Harington to be in the MCU because it's reported that he will appear in Blade, but not only Blade, he will also be in Midnight Suns, which to me, I was like, okay, that one makes sense. 2 could just be somebody's wishful thinking that they're putting out there, and this couldn't even be legit, but I'm you know, throwing it in there anyways because it's something I saw going around net last week. But if this is the case, does this also confirm that Midnight Suns is actually fully in the works and that they are planning to do a Midnight Suns movie? But for me, you know, they can have plans to do all these types of things. At this point, for me, it's like Spider-Man Brand New Day, Avengers Doomsday, and then anything after that, it's like up in the air because we have no idea what really is coming, what's going to be coming out on what days, you know, like we have no idea how Avengers Doomsday will affect things going forward, you know, so as much as I want to see Blade and Midnight Suns, we probably should have seen Blade years ago at this point. And Midnight Suns probably, you know, if Blade came out in 2023, like maybe it was supposed to, maybe by now we would be seeing a Midnight Suns. And then the Midnight Suns would have tied into Avengers Doomsday. But at this rate and at this moment in time, I don't see how that's possible, you know? Like, so they're going to have to do Avengers Doomsday without some people. And then maybe they're putting these things together for that 1 year in between Doomsday and Secret Wars, so then they can do a Midnight Suns in that in-between year, and then by that Christmas for Secret Wars, we can have them in Secret Wars. But even so, that's still closing in. So they need to start filming, get this stuff out, get this stuff ready, get this stuff edited in the CGI and all that, and then be able to plan to have them all tied together. And I just don't know if they're thinking like that. You know, as much as I would like them to, I don't know if they are, you know. But I don't know, comment your thoughts below on Midnight Suns and Blade, and maybe in the future we'll have a video talking about the future of Marvel and where that could be going. But jumping into some Spider-Man Brand New Day from an email from Hollywood Reporter, and it confirmed that Michael Giacchino will be returning to compose the score for Spider-Man Brand New Day. And he had previously done the Spider-Man Home trilogy, and he had done things like 2022's The Batman. He directed and did the score for Werewolf by Night, you know, and Michael Giacchino's great, and his son Mick Giacchino did the Penguin score for the Penguin HBO show. So I am very happy that Michael Giacchino is back for Spider-Man. It just means this movie will sound great as well as look awesome and be awesome, you know. And other reports said that Spider-Man Brand New Day will be wrapping at some point this week. I think the date they said was December 16th, so that I think is tomorrow, but I'm assuming sometime soon Spider-Man Brand New Day will wrap officially, because I think they had wrapped and this is like reshoots, so I think this is going to be the official wrap on this pretty soon, and then Michael Giacchino will step in and then have about 6 months until June or July, whenever that film comes out, to get that edit and that score together, you know. So that's exciting stuff, and we'll definitely keep you updated on any other Spider-Man Brand New Day news I hear going forward. But some Avengers Doomsday interesting little news here, and apparently I had just started recording and I had seen all over Twitter Avengers Doomsday leaked trailer, and there was a bunch of posts with like a leak, but when you clicked on the link it just said the post is no longer available. So I wonder if it really did officially leak and then now Marvel's trying to cover it up, or is it like people are being scumbags and leaking things they shouldn't be and then everybody's grabbing it and making it news. I don't know, but I can wait myself until Friday or whenever I'm at Avatar Fire and Ash to see this trailer for the first time. But I would love for Marvel to release it at home so we can all break it down and react to it together. But the current news at the moment is that 4 different Avengers Doomsday trailers will be attached to Avatar Fire and Ash, and each trailer will play for 1 week before switching to the next. So for 4 weeks as Avatar Fire and Ash plays, there will be a different Avengers trailer each week. If anything, this is going to make Marvel fans and Avengers people go see Avatar a bunch more times and buy tickets to go see this film just to see the trailer. I don't know how accurate this is, although it says it's confirmed from an email from Hollywood Reporter as well. So, you know, potentially 4 different Avengers trailers ahead of Avatar Fire and Ash. That sounds insane. But if it is 4 different trailers, I did see one post that was like, oh yeah, 4 different trailers. The Wakandans, the X-Men, the Avengers, and Doomsday, you know, and like have the 4 different groups of, or 4 different teams, if you would. Maybe even like the Thunderbolts, the Sam Wilson Avengers, maybe the, you know what I mean, like the X-Men, and then maybe the Wakandans or whatever, maybe Doomsday's team. But like have the 4 different trailers be centered around the 4 different factions that would be fighting against Doom in this. I think that would be interesting, but I don't think that's the case. You know, as much as this report I'd like to believe, I think there's probably going to be 1 teaser trailer now, and that will be playing ahead of Avatar Fire and Ash, and then probably by Super Bowl time in February, we're going to see probably then a Spider-Man trailer as well as a Avengers Doomsday trailer, and one will be teasing the summer for Marvel and one will be teasing the winter for Marvel, you know, and they're 2 biggest films probably coming up, and they need both those films to be highly successful. But I don't think they won't be successful. I just think they will definitely be successful, but how successful? You know, will they make 700 million and that will be like a good mark for them to hit, or will it exceed the billion like they are banking on it to do? But sliding into a bit of DC news, and to start, HBO and HBO Max released this little post with HBO Max's 2026, and apparently the things that will be coming out in 2026 are Euphoria Season 3, House of the Dragon Season 3, a movie called Heated Rivalry. Interesting. Or maybe that's a show, but either way, Heated Rivalry, The Pit Season 2, Industry Season 4, which I think might be the last season of Industry. A Night of the Seven Kingdoms will be out in January, I believe. Dune Prophecy Season 2. I didn't think that was going to be coming back, but apparently it is. So Season 2 for Dune Prophecy we can look forward to next year. And Lanterns we can look forward to next year. And they also put out this little like teaser trailer that had like little brief looks at each of these, and I have the little piece that is only about 11 seconds long that shows us a brief, like very brief look at Lanterns. So we're gonna watch it real quick and see what we can grab from it, but it is a pretty interesting little clip, so let's see what this looks like.
I trained my entire life for this.
You're not ready to get up in front of the class till wearing says you are.
Damn! So I think they're in like a black Grand National or something, and Hal Jordan, I believe, is Kyle Chandler's character's name, and he puts the Green Lantern ring on the dash and just jumps out of the car and sends this Grand National, I believe is the car, off a cliff, which is just a shame because it looks like they did this for real, so they probably smashed up a Grand National, but it looked like poor Aaron Pierre, freaking Jon Stewart's on the inside of it, and he's gonna have to either put on the ring for the first time and get himself out of this, or he's gonna end up in a pretty bad car accident, you know. So I think Hal's banking on him to, you know, use his instincts to adjust on the fly. And I think that's kind of the Lantern's powers, or at least, you know, Hal Jordan's power is, you know, adapting to things on the fly and not necessarily having a plan going into something, but just figuring it out as he goes. And I don't know. I think that's how he differs from some other heroes. But Lanterns, just from the brief little second that we see here, like him jumping out the lantern ring on the dash and just like he's rolling in the street as this car just goes off a cliff, like that's crazy. But at the beginning of that, it looks like, you know, they're in like this military type of bunker thing, and there's somebody giving a speech, and then it looks like these two are going to be like detective partners, and, you know, Kyle Chandler's the older partner and maybe, you know, showing Jon Stewart the ropes a little bit, and they're walking through like this plastic curtain, and so maybe they're investigating some murder that isn't a normal murder, and that's when it gets cosmic and space, you know, maybe even the murder or something that they find, the body they find, maybe it has to do with Martian Manhunter. If that's the case, and this Lanterns TV show is not only introducing 2 more Green Lanterns with Hal Jordan and Jon Stewart, but introduces maybe my favorite character from the animated Justice League, Martian Manhunter, John Jones. You know, like, oh, what a fucking character. And I hope he looks like his comic book, you know, or even that animated series, the way that he looked. I absolutely dug that design so much. The normal Martian design, and then he, like, you know, chops off the point and, like, you know, gives himself kind of like Superman's attire and goes, like, you know, puffs out his chest. He's like, is this better? Do I look more your parts now? Do I look like friend John Jones? You know, like, I love that voice so much. But Lanterns, man, I don't know. I think this was supposed to come early in like January and be like the DC early beginning of the year stuff, but with Knights of the Seven Kingdom and the other things that are coming out early this year on HBO, I think Lanterns got pushed to like August, so kind of in like that Peacemaker summer spot, which I don't think will be so bad, right after Supergirl. So hopefully, just like Superman, you know, people were hyped on Superman, and then right after went directly into Peacemaker season 2 and absolutely loved that as well, and the conversation seemed to keep going with that. So maybe Lanterns will have the same type of vibe, and it will be hype central for Supergirl, and then that will lead right into Lanterns in the summer. We don't have an official date yet, but that's what I'm hoping for. And just to, you know, wrap up here with the DC stuff with Supergirl, the post that James Gunn put out the other day in DC and Supergirl, the reactions from countless fans all over the place being like, I'm so excited, I'm so ready, already in love with this movie, love this girl, Kara is here, you know, like tons of people. We are so back, Kara is on her way, you know, so there's people absolutely loving the Supergirl trailer. And if you guys haven't checked that out, there's a teaser trailer for that my reaction and breakdown to Supergirl that's currently up on the channel from last week. Go check that out, where we discuss that in a little bit more detail. But I love the poster that they put out with the truth, justice, whatever, and her on the cover, and like how she's got like Peter Quill, Guardians of the Galaxy Walkman headphones. That's pretty awesome. And like just the way her suit looks is pretty awesome in general. But I also have the premise for the movie here, and it says, when an unexpected and ruthless enemy threatens, Kara Zor-El is forced, against her will, to team up with an unlikely companion. And together, they embark on an epic cosmic journey where revenge and justice are at stake, and where Kara must confront her origins to find her own path as a hero. Very interesting premise for Supergirl. And then, as well as releasing the premise, James Gunn on Supergirl regarding the Netflix acquisition, he said, this is a story-based medium. We want stories to be in theaters that are cool and different from each other. This movie is not just a female clone of Superman. It's its own thing entirely, with a character who is equally worth the treatment. And it's like, yeah, she is a badass fucking character, and she's not just Superman, you know? They have similar powers, similar outfits even, similar names even. But very, very different people, and I think that's very smart to start out Superman, Supergirl, and just show how similar people can be, but also be so different, you know? And I think this is going to be really good. I think Craig Gillespie directed and Anna Noguera wrote it, so I think it's going to be really awesome. And apparently James Gunn is real happy, and he didn't even write it or direct it himself, so that shows a lot as a head of a studio, to be happy about something and accept the vision of it and accept everything that it is without having to be fully in control and hands-on, you know? So I'm very curious to see this just as something that's not from the mind of James Gunn, but somehow still connects into the overall scheme and universe that he's going for here. So yeah, and Millie Alcock I have a huge crush on, so I'm obsessed with this already. And like the score for this, they released a little bit of the score for the movie. My goodness. And they released like a big, long, chunky version of that theme song or score from Ramin Djawadi, who did the scores for Game of Thrones, Eternals, Fallout, Iron Man, many of other things. He's done a lot of great work, but Game of Thrones is where I know him the most from. And man, Ramin Djawadi, that like, you know, like somehow sounds rock, but also like futuristic, but also like extraterrestrial, you know what I mean? Like, doesn't sound like a noise from this planet, which sounds awesome, you know? Like, it's not of this world how much that song rocks. And I love that, like, for Superman, it was look up and truth, justice, in the American way, and hers is truth, justice, whatever. I really loved that trailer a lot, and like some of the shots in it where the Supergirl, you know, we get the actual look of her in her costume, and she looks like she's smirking a little bit. She looks not drunk and raggedy like she does in some of the other shots in the trailer, but the sun is right behind her, casting a glare much like it did for Superman. And like, even though these are two completely different directors, the symbolism between the two and how much one was clearly inspired by Superman in some ways, you know, like, that's awesome. You know, I love that. Even if the movies don't connect, in little parallels like the shot composition with the sun glare gives you enough of a connection between the two movies where you can see how these characters are similar, where you don't need to have them on screen right next to each other to show it. You know what I mean? Like, I love the little symbolism there. And then, of course, it was brief and it was just a moment, but Jason Momoa as Lobo is in this movie, smoking cigars, looking comic book accurate, and apparently he has his space hog as well. And I don't know if he's just going to be a comedic relief in this movie, just showing up out of random places and just being like, where is she? Oh, she's already on to the next place? Oh, right, and he's just kind of following her around on his space bike trying to hunt her down, but he's bailing, you know, I don't know. Or maybe he will be the unexpected companion that she ends up fighting alongside with. But I don't know, I picture him much more as like a anti-hero villain-esque type where they're probably going to be butting heads and not getting along so much. But just to close out today's topic, the last thing I want to talk about is IMDb's Best of 2025 in the most popular movies of 2025 as of 12/2/25. So just to start December is when this list came a thing. But this isn't the best movies of the year. This is just the most popular movies of the year. And I will say I am proud of myself because out of the 10 movies on this list, 8 of them I have seen. And the only 2 that I haven't seen are number 2's Weapons, and that's actually streaming on HBO Max right now, but I keep getting booted off of my HBO Max, so that's a pain in the ass, so I gotta watch that one. That one I've heard really good things about, but also kind of scary, so also not really my vibe. But One Battle After Another is the other film that I haven't seen this year, and that I've been hearing great things about. And that might be my number 1 movie of the year after I watch it, but currently, my number 1 movie of the year is Sinners. Then I have Superman, and then I have Frankenstein and Predator Badlands as my top 4 currently. And that really just has to do with how much fun I had with most of those movies. You know, I had a great time watching Superman. I had an even better time with my buddy watching Predator Badlands. Like, what a good movie. I had a phenomenal experience watching Sinners with my mom earlier this year. And just how original that movie is and the score of it. And like, yeah, it's a vampire film, but it's also like a grungy musical disguised as a vampire film. Like, you know, and it's like a period piece. Like that, Sinners is a phenomenal film and probably one of the best movies of the year and probably of the last decade that I've seen. Sinners has left a huge mark on me. And I think One Battle After Another is going to be great. Paul Thomas Anderson, I just haven't seen it yet myself. Jurassic World Rebirth was good, but maybe a little bit overhyped, and that's why I don't think it deserves to be at number 5 for most popular movies of the year. But Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein at number 6, now currently streaming on Netflix. Phenomenal movie, much different than I expected. Some great action in it, but mostly just about the dialogue and how good the actors are in this film. And like, just in the directing, the shot composition, the style, the costumes, everything about Frankenstein was immaculately done. Guillermo del Toro, well frickin' done. That was incredible. Happy Gilmore 2, just a fun time to see our boy Adam Sandler back as Happy for a second round of golf here, and just, you know, a little bit more modern take on it. I think Happy Gilmore 1 is much better film, but it is what it is. That's at number 7. I think Thunderbolts and Mission Impossible Final Reckoning and F1 all deserve to be higher on this list. F1 was another movie that was shot unbelievably. I believe that's streaming on Apple TV Plus, and if it's not, it's an Apple movie that was great in theaters. I wish I was able to see in IMAX. Mission Impossible Final Reckoning, the Mission Impossible movies are just unbelievable, and Tom Cruise just trying to kill himself on camera for our entertainment is just insane. And then Thunderbolts was so surprising on how much I liked that movie, because it's dark, it's moody, but how much fun that movie is and how much I like to spend, you know, even though they're not going through the best of moments, you know, they're all kind of struggling, and they're all not kind of heroes, they all kind of suck. But yet I kind of love them all individually for different reasons, and I also love them as a group, you know, like Ghost being in there with Yelena. I love Florence Pugh so much. But Red Guardian, Bucky, Wyatt Russell's Johnny Mayonnaise, friggin' U.S. agent, whatever his name is. I always call him Johnny Mayonnaise, so I don't know the character's actual name. But, you know, Bob as well, Century, you know, and then Julia Louis-Dreyfus's kid, Valentina, you know, she's a pain in the ass, but she's in there as well, you know, like, just a great cast, and just they all bounced off of each other very well. And like, just having Bucky and Wyatt Russell and David Harbour all, you know, bouncing off of each other. I would have loved to seen, you know, just been a fly on the wall just to see them talking in a circle, just, you know, shooting the shit between shots, you know, like just to be a fly on the wall for that set, just to see how they all interacted with each other when the cameras weren't rolling. I bet they had a lot of fun doing that movie. And that Thunderbolts crew is going to be back in Avengers Doomsday, I think, you know, so we'll see them back together again being funny. But that's it for today, y'all. I'd love to know your thoughts on everything we talked about today. What's your favorite movie of the year? What do you think should be the most popular film of the year? Comment below your thoughts about Supergirl, or go check out my Supergirl trailer breakdown and reaction that came out last week, as well as HBO 2026. What are you most anticipating for next year's HBO shows? Do you want to see Black Knight, Kit Harington back in Blade or Midnight Suns, Spider-Man Brand New Day, Avengers Doomsday, Avatar Fire and Ash? Are you excited for this stuff coming up? The trailers that might be involved with Avatar Fire and Ash, I guess I'll let you know Thursday or Friday when I go and see that for the first time. It's a 3-hour plus film, so that's going to be a bit of a day in the theaters, but we're going to get it done for y'all. As well as the video game awards for 2025. You know, what do you think should have won, or other video games that came out this year? It was a big year for games as well as movies and TV. So, you know, comment below what you're playing out there, what you're watching. Currently, I'm still trying to catch up on Stranger Things for Christmas. I'm currently on season 3, episode 7, but I'd love to hear what you guys have been watching, movies, TVs, games. I'd love to know what you guys are up there doing to pass the time at the current moment. And you know, just because if you made it this far, I'm sure there's very few of you left, but a couple weeks ago I gave a little update that I had been talking to somebody, and then a couple weeks later I was like, hoes ain't shit, and that was mostly me just coping with my hurt feelings, I guess. But no, hoes ain't shit is just my way of fucking being like, fuck that bitch, you know, like. But she is quite nice, and she did hit me back up and apologize, and people are going through things, so, you know, I didn't want to just leave it out there like hoes ain't shit. So things are coming back. We're trying to figure things out. Maybe after the holidays we'll have our first date and figure things out from there. But just wanted to keep you all updated. Love to hear how you guys are doing heading into the holidays. I know it's a stressful time of year. If anybody needs somebody to talk to, I'm definitely here for y'all. I appreciate everybody that watched this video and made it this far into the video. Once again, my name's Big Cam, which I'm sure you know. But if you'd like to follow my other social medias, links for those down in the description below. Thank you guys so much for stopping on by and making it this far into the video. It really means the world to me. And if you made it this far and you would like to support the channel, the best way of doing that is liking this video, dropping a comment down in the comment section below, subscribing if you haven't already, and hitting that bell so you don't miss next week's Comically Boston podcast, and you'll get the notification when that comes out. Thank you guys so much. It really means the world to me. My name is Big Cam, and I'll see you beautiful people in the next one. Peace.